As usual, I like to include at least one video where I push the highest tier in each season, and yes, you may do it with multiple builds as a demon hunter, but I think that Natalya's spike trap might have a slight edge above all the rest. Long story short, it is a powerful build that can finish 150 even with suboptimal gear, low level gems and low paragon, but it is also probably the most mechanically demanding builds I've ever played in this game. Meaning that you need to press a lot of buttons with precise timing, while you also need a good understanding on how to create density in the game. This is especially important as not only is this an area damage build, but we also have the Shard of Hatred in our helm, which further increases our damage in big densities while actually lowering it when we try to finish off leftover enemies. For this reason, it is extremely important to be able to drag enemies with yourself as you move through the rift and keep up a decent density at all times, as that's the only way you will ever kill any elite, aside from of course a conduit pylon. Fortunately, the build has access to on-demand pixel pools to help with that. But let's quickly go over our gear and then return to how to play our cards. Aside from the huge damage increase coming from the 2 and the 6 piece bonus, we also have a fair number of damage multipliers for our spike trap, while the Endless Walk set is also a very convenient inclusion, giving us a toughness buff while we are moving around and pulling enemies, by providing a nice chunk of damage increase while we stand still and nuke. There are two main ways you can put the rest of your gear together. One of them is a lot more consistent and tanky, the other deals a lot more damage at the cost of being very squishy. For lower paragons and for those just starting out with the build, I would recommend running the more consistent variation with the Guardian set and the permanent uptime on our Vengeance. This version is tanky enough that you should be able to survive dragging multiple elites with you through the map without any problem. But if you are feeling strong, you might run a Captain Crimson set and a Convention of Elements, giving you a sizable damage increase at the cost of not having your Vengeance up at all times, making you susceptible to one-shots if you are not careful. But let's see how it looks like to play the build. On a basic level, it is just about pressing Spike Trap 5 times, laying Caltrops and shooting with your generator to start a chain reaction of Spike Trap explosions. And pretty much this is what you keep on repeating for the whole run to deal damage. Of course, if we add that Spike Trap explosions blast enemies toward your unsprang Caltrops, it becomes a lot more complicated all of a sudden. It means that you want to lay Spike Traps under far away enemies and pull them in with explosions when you are trying to create density or drag mobs with you. The tricky part is that it does not work if the Caltrop is already activated. Upon laying a Caltrop when there are monsters next to you, you have roughly a second until it activates, and this is the time window when you can pull in the enemies, so this is when you need to tap your generator to create Spike Trap explosions. This might look like a finger breaker, and yeah, actually it is, but this is the only way we can consistently pixel pull enemies and deal the most damage we can. Once you manage to pull in enough enemies, it is just about repeating the DPS part while staying alive until the density thins out. Then it is time to gather mobs again. For the DPS part, you will need to develop a feel for how often you need to press your generator, as ideally you would press it once you have exactly 10 spike traps on the ground, meaning that after 5 casts, not sooner, not later, to maximize your damage. You also need to be aware to keep up your Shadow Power and Vengeance, and to frequently use Smokescreen to avoid incoming damage. Now obviously this is a rather complex build that I could explain a lot longer, but just to start out I think it would be enough for most players. It certainly requires practice, I myself was also surprised, but the whole build can be translated into muscle memory just by practicing enough. For the clear you see here, I used around 10 keys, had a mediocre mob type and quite bad pylons, while my gear and gameplay were also far from optimal, so I would say that it is a fairly decent build if you want to push the highest tier. And this is it. I will leave you now with the rest of the clear and you can check the gear I used at the end. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned something new. If so, then consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. See you next time.
still waiting. Not ready yet. I'm still waiting. Heal me! Not ready yet.
Don't take that Templar with you. He'll put you to sleep with all of his blathering.